Hello, hello, hello. We are alive. I think we're live. Okay, I'll wait for a few people to get here while I try and get this thumbnail done. If you're here, just pop in and say hi. Okay. Just give me one minute. Requirements. I'll get started as soon as the first person shows up. Requirements. Just pop in and say hi. If you're here, I think I see one person. Hey, hey, hey. Actually, let me type in something. So, guys, today we're going to be talking about, for the most part, medical requirements. Maybe the actual word should be medical rules, not the requirements. So, topic. Hey, darling, digital nomad. What's up? Hey, guys, thank you for joining the stream today. Okay, so now that I've got some of you here, sorry if I look tired. I've been fighting my sleep for a while, for the last couple of days actually, but I need to make this video happen. So thank you guys for coming in. So today I want to update you like usual, and also I want to talk about something that's been asked about a lot. This question gets asked both on YouTube, also on my Instagram, and when I check my Facebook, I get asked about medical requirements all the time. And also, I do want to mention that if you are trying to reach out on Facebook, I apologize if it seems like I take forever to answer. That's because I spend very little time on Facebook compared to, I'm usually on YouTube or Instagram. So if you message me on either of those two platforms, you probably get a much faster response than, say Facebook. So I'm just not on Facebook like that. So Blackjack, welcome. Ninja Killer, welcome. Wayne, thank you for tuning in. All right, so let's get started. All right. Honestly, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because the month of August has been a little crazy in the aviation world. And guys, please let me know if you are able to hear me, if the sound is good on your end. If you're not able to hear me, please let me know because I have an external mic that I can use. But I'll continue. So it's been a crazy month, the month of August. As some of you already may have read, I made a video recently also about it. Some employee who hijacked an airplane and just went on a joyride. Well, a joyride on a suicide mission, basically. And sadly, he crashed the airplane after flying around for, I don't know, 30 minutes or so. So that was the first one. And I think that happened on August 4th. That was early in August. And literally, it was either 2 days or 3 days later that I read of another pilot who used their airplane as a weapon, as a suicide weapon, basically. And this one happened where it was between a husband and a wife, okay? This guy gets in an argument. There was a domestic dispute with the wife. He gets arrested, and he got released from getting arrested, and then he got into a plane and flew the airplane into his own house. Committed suicide flying into his own house, hoping to, I don't know, I guess hurt his wife as well, but thank God the wife wasn't there. But obviously he didn't make it. So with all this crazy things happening, I thought it was fitting that we talk about, some of the medical requirements or rules set by the FAA when it comes to, because I actually, after reading about these events, I went on the forum pilot friend, Pilot of America, sorry, and I was asking like, hey, with all of this stuff going on, do you think that the FAA would maybe make up some new rules or have some new set requirements with mental health or whatnot? And honestly, I don't think anything would happen on that front. And I'm hoping that it doesn't, in the sense that, when people do stupid things or they do crazy things, it affects all of us. Like, if you think about when you're traveling commercial, for example, now you have to go through so many security checks. You got to take off your shoes, your belt, all of that. And the reason why, listen, the first time I traveled across the ocean was probably 15 or 16 years ago. And I didn't have to take off my shoes. The security wasn't as crazy as it is now. But guess what? It was because some asshole decided to wear a bomb in his shoe. That's why you get to take your shoes off. So it really takes one person to do something really crazy for the government or the lawmakers to look at something and say, okay, we're going to make up a new rule. So that's what I was thinking, reading about these events happening. And again, it brings me to the medical rules for FAA. And this is a question that's been asked of me quite often. I've had people ask me, okay, what are my requirements? I've had people older, because that's one of the mountain in front of you, so to speak. If you're much older and you want to get into flying, or you want to pick up flying again, you have to go through a physical, FAA physical, and you have to pass certain things. So I'm going to go through them here. From what I know, and also I should put a disclaimer out there that whatever information that I share with you today regarding this, take it with a grain of salt, okay? And make sure you confirm the data, or you go do your own research. What I'm going to speak to you about is based on my own knowledge of the rules, but things could have changed. So make sure you double check your own fact. Don't say Mike told you this and he was totally wrong. But anyway, this is what I understand. So when it comes to flying, there are 3 types of medical certificate. You have a first class, you have a second class, and then you have a third class medical certificate. And I'll try to explain it as simple as possible. So if you are, let's start from the first class. So actually, with all of the certificate, the rules goes based on if you are over 40 years old or under 40 years old. So that's how I'm going to explain it. So take the first class medical certificate, for example. Think of it as it's required only if you fly for commercial airliners. If you're an ATP pilot, meaning air transport pilot, you have to get a first class. And if you are under 40 years old, that certificate lasts you for 12 months, okay, which is roughly a year. So if you're under 40, 12 months. If you are over 40, then every 6 months you have to renew it. Okay, so that's first class. And again, first class, think of it as ATP pilot. If you're a student pilot or any private pilot, you don't need a first class medical certificate. Now, second class also is commercial. So first class is commercial, but really for airliner pilots. The second class is required for pilots who also fly commercial, not necessarily flying for an airliner. You could be flying private or for business purposes, or you could be working for a news channel or whatever have you. That's considered commercial. So if you have a commercial pilot license, you would want to get a second class medical certificate, and that will last you, if you are under 40 years old, you have 60 months, so approximately 5 years before renewal. If you are over 40 years old, then you have 24 months, so 2 years. All right, so under 40 for second class, 5 years, over 40, 2 years. All right, and then bring you to the third class medical license. Now, the third class is what I use, is if you're a student pilot, is what you're also going to use or have to get to be able to fly. So with third class, that's for private pilots and also student pilots. So you need a third class medical certificate. And just like the second class, it would last you for 5 years, 60 months. And that's if you're under 40, you have up to 60 months before renewal. And if you are over the age of 40, then you have only 2 years, 24 months. Okay, and so those are the set rules. Now, excuse me, and I'm looking at your questions. I feel like I'm talking too fast. Excuse me. So if you are, I mean, more specifically, what they're going to test you for. When I did my physical, I had mine done a couple of years ago. And also, you can't. This is not done by just any doctor. This whichever physician that you go to has to be FAA certified. So you have to go to a specific type of doctor to check you out. It's not just any. You can't just go to your normal family doctor, okay? Except they're approved by the FAA. So what they're checking for, common things is one, your eyesight. If you to fly, you have to have 20/20 vision, and I'll break that down a little bit. So 20/20 vision, you don't have to have 20/20 vision naturally, but if you wear contact or medical or prescribed glasses and it helps you get to 20/20, then you're good. All right. So your eyesight is one. I know they check for blood pressure. And also, I remember one of the things that was actually introduced when I was training was sleep apnea. That was the very first time I heard about it, and I also heard that that was the first time they were adding that to part of the rules. So if you have sleep apnea, again, I'm not so technical. I'm not so knowledgeable about some of these conditions. So sleep apnea, from what I remember, it was or it is. I think it's a condition where it's like you fall asleep basically. I don't know. It's like something with your heart basically, something with the heart and something with that has to do with like sleepwalking. So sleep apnea is one of the conditions. If you are diagnosed with that, um, that's one of the red flags. Also, if you have terminal illness like say diabetes or any type of illness that say affects your blood pressure, I know those things they're going to look at as well. Now, this is not saying that if you have a type of chronic illness or condition, then you're doomed or you're screwed forever and you're not going to be able to fly. It's just saying I think every case can also be different. For example, with I don't know, with say diabetes, for example, it could be what type of diabetes that you have or what level, or how extreme is your condition. But I know these things they're going to test you for. And the idea is, the FAA wants to make sure that you're capable of flying an airplane in a safe manner where basically where when you're on the ground, for example, you could be fine. But once you get higher and higher with altitude also comes air pressure. Different air pressure is up there. Also, you have a lower level or amount of oxygen that you're able to breathe in. So all those things can affect your physical being. And so FAA wants to make sure that when you're up there or at whatever altitude that you're flying in, that you're still able to mentally focus and be physically fine to be able to come down safely. So that's one of the things that they're checking for. I also think they check stuff for your ears. I don't know, something with blood pressure also with your ears. If you have some type of ear infection or whatever have you, those things will be checked. Again, because of air pressure, think about it. If you're flying in altitude, and you may have noticed this too, even if you don't fly yourself, say when you go on a commercial flight, you ever notice whenever, say, you're at 20,000 feet and then all of a sudden you're coming down, you're lower to the ground, you notice that the air pressure will change and your ears probably get, blocked out or sometimes even hurt. So those things the FAA are checking for. And so, but those are more of the specifics. Again, I'm not a doctor or physician, But if you have a specific type of condition, I think every case will be different. Every case will vary from one to another. All right, so that's all of FAA medical certification and rules in a nutshell. You can obviously read more about it on the FAA website. The information is there, and you can also talk to if you're a student pilot, you can talk to your CFI of the school, and they can advise you better. Now, speaking about all of that, one thing that I thought about after the fact. So, for example, when I started my training, and I'm looking at your questions on the side. I'm gonna get to them. So when I started my training, I had my medical certificate. It was a week before I went to solo, or maybe a couple of weeks before. Basically, I had already started training. I was already at least 20, 30 hours in before I actually went and got my medical done. Now, what I would advise to someone who's just starting, don't do that. I would advise you to actually get your medical done beforehand. That way, say, for example, you went in and invested all the time and the money and you flew all those hours, and God forbid you go do your physical and something is up and then you're not able to fly. So that's something you have to think about. So I think for your medical certificate, it's best to get it done as early as possible. Get it done as early as possible, and that way you know that, okay, everything is good. I'm allowed to fly. And for student pilots, your medical certificate actually also holds as your license to fly. So before you get to check ride and pass your exam for your check ride, your student your medical certificate is what you use as your license, and that's why whenever you get it, you may hear your instructor tell you that you should always have it in your logbook, because that serves as your license to fly. But again, my advice is to get it done as early as possible. That way you don't run into any type of red flags. And then lastly, the thing is, I feel like hopefully things will get easier and easier for people, because look, getting medical done is also, like I said, one of the things that's a blocking stone in front of people who are trying to get into flying, especially if you're over 40 or if you're at an older age. So getting your medical done can be tasking. And that's why also light sport category was created, because so it has less strict rules in terms of what you need in terms of your medical. And that's why you have some older pilots, just the only option they have is light sport, because they can't pass their medical to get into to get a private pilot license or higher. So that's my 2 cents, and that's honestly what I know about your medical requirements. Now I'm gonna try to answer. Actually, no. Before I get into your questions in the comments, I also have questions from over the week. Excuse me, that you guys asked. It's only 3 of them, so I'm gonna run through them real quick. So let's see. All right. So Stephen Brown. I don't know if Stephen Brown is here. Say hi, Stephen, if you're here. I'm looking at the side comments. I don't see it. So Stephen asked, have I seen the Titan T51 kit plane? He would love to see a review video. For those of you who are not familiar with the Titan, please know of this plane, the P-51 Mustang. It's one of the most iconic aircraft in American aviation, period. So the Titan T-51 is a replica of that aircraft, and it will cost you significantly less, like a fraction of what you. I think most P-51s today, you're looking at $2 million or more for those aircraft, because it's a collectible item basically. So if you wanted something similar and you can't afford the original, you can opt in for a Titan T-51 kit. Now, to answer your question though, Stefan, I am familiar with the aircraft, but I haven't seen one in person. I can reach out to Titan Aircraft and see if they would love to show it to me. And that's the thing, I should explain somewhat of the process. A lot of times when I'm trying to review an aircraft, I reach out to people. Sometimes, a lot of times actually, I don't get a response back, or they're not interested. Okay. So sometimes it's like that, or sometimes I've had situations where I was able to book some gigs to review an aircraft, and then last minute something happens, they're not able to show the aircraft or whatever have you. So the only thing I can promise is that I'll reach out, and hopefully, I can get a good shot at the airplane. Now they are out of state, so it would require me to travel to a different state to check it out. All right, but next question, Kevin, could an LSA pilot get the 915 engine for the Bristol as an ELSA? Okay, so I feel like I should re-ask that question in a simple way. So what is asking, I don't know if some of you saw, or if all of you saw the review I did on the Bristol LSA airplane. So in that interview, I asked them about the 915 engine. Also, if you're not familiar with 915 engine, this is the newest engine from Rotax, and it's more powerful. It's also turbocharged, and you get around 140, 141 horsepower. And with the Bristol, it comes standard with a smaller Rotax engine that only produces 100 horsepower. Now, if you were to put in a 915, obviously you get a lot more boost in performance. Your climb rate is better. Your cruise also is better. Now, in the video, you would hear me ask the spokesman there, and he tells me that the 915 engine cannot be approved for light sport, for LSA. One, because of the size, the weight. Sorry, the weight of the engine will add more weight significantly to the overall weight of the aircraft. And as some of you may already know, with LSA, you're very restricted on how heavy the airplane would be. So if you were to opt in for a 915, it would go past that weight count. So that's why the 915 cannot be approved for LSA, particularly for the Bristol. Now, if you want one, you can always get it. Then you would probably just move into an experimental category, not just light sport. So you can always fit it, because Bristol did tell me that you can build the airplane as a kit and then put the more powerful Rotax 915 in there. So to answer your question, the answer is yes. It's possible you can do it if you so choose to do that. All right, now last question I have noted here. This is from Smith. He asked, a lot of people tells me that I can't get a pilot's license because I'm asthmatic. Do you think this is true? Okay. I answered that question actually on Instagram already. So, and again, this is tying into the medical stuff that we're already talking about. If you have some type of health condition like asthma, for example, I don't think that that's going to bar you forever from flying. And the response I gave to Smith earlier is, honestly, it would depend on how extreme your condition is. If your asthma is under control, for example, I think that you should be fine. Again, I'm not so knowledgeable on on asthma itself, so I can't say this is what you would need, or this is whatever medication you use. I don't know all those stuff, but I don't think just having asthma is gonna deter you, or they're gonna ban you from being able to fly. And again, it speaks to my own story too. For years, because my eyesight is shot, basically because I spend so much time in front of the screen. And for years, I thought that I would not ever be able to become a pilot because I don't have 20/20 vision. And that's what a lot of people have told me. They were like, well, if you don't have 20/20 vision, then you have no business flying. And guess what? Most of these people were not pilots. They don't even fly. They don't know much about flying. But I listened to them, and for years I thought that, me becoming a pilot was not possible because my vision is bad. But then later, obviously, I spoke to a real pilot who then told me that, no, of course you can fly. If you use your glasses and you can see well with your glasses or your contacts, like I have on right now, then you should be fine. And so I'm saying the same thing to you, Smith, and whoever else in Smith's position, where if you're thinking that something or some type of medical condition that you have uh, is going to stop you from being able to fly, I think that you should ask around. Uh, with asthma, to be more specific, I don't think that that should stop you from being able to fly or pass your exams in your flight training. So go get started if that's the only thing stopping you. All right. So, excuse me. Now I'm going to get into some of your questions. I'm just going to read through the chat box here. I have two more things I want to discuss with you guys on my agenda, but let me say what's up to everybody. Mr. German, 1969, what's up? Thank you for tuning in. Goofy Potato, I hope you guys, I hope you learned something. Again, please double check whatever stuff you hear on this video. What's up, Ninja Killer 2002? Wayne, what's up? Aviation Lover asked, what are the medical rules for asthma? I've asked, okay, good. I just answered the question, I think. So again, asthma, I don't think is one of the extreme conditions that will stop you from being able to fly. I think that you should be able to, go for your training and pass your exams without any problem. But I do think it will depend on how extreme your particular condition is. Okay, going through here. Claire, thank you. Brian Kennedy, check out the AG tractor. I mean, I'll check it out. I don't know. If you have a video link to that particular aircraft, please put it in the chat box and I'll check it out. It's cool. And okay, so Ninja Killer asked, as a captain, if I do an ATP flight school and fly regionals for a bit, how much does 3-class medical cost? Third class medical. So I'm not sure. So again, for first class is different from second and third. If you're trained to be an ATP, which is basically a pilot for the airliners, you're probably going to be required to have a first class medical. But I don't know specifically the cost for that certificate. I do know that for my third class certificate, I think it was between 100 or 150. I could be wrong, but I think I remember it was around that price range. It's not expensive at all. It's like going to see a normal doctor. It's basically getting a physical done. I haven't gotten my normal physical done in a while, but I'm pretty sure if I went to see a doctor right now without any medical insurance, I'm looking at least $100 just to get my physical. So it's around that same price. The medical cost is around that same price, 100, 150. It could be more because, again, mine was done a few years ago. Let's see. Yes, so Wayne Christopher, thank you. He said you stop breathing when you sleep. So earlier I was talking about sleep apnea. It's a condition that you stop breathing when you sleep. Thank you for pointing that out. And you guys should actually go do some research on that. If you have that condition, I wouldn't say that it would completely block your road to becoming a pilot, but I do know that that's one of the things that I was tested for, and the doctor questioned me about. And also he was telling me that FAA had just introduced it at that time. This was back in 2015 or 16. So if you have sleep apnea, I think you should check in with that and see what the rules are. But I do know that's definitely something that they're going to check for. Um, so Tonga Express, what do you guys think about? Well, I think you're asking the group, but I'll answer it anyway. What do you think about the SR-22T G3 for a starter plane as far as safety and features go? So the SR-22T G3, for those of you who may not be familiar, that's the Cirrus SR-22 Turbo. And I think G3 stands for Generation 3. Either way, the SR-22, okay, so as a starter airplane, my personal take on it is no, I think you need to crawl first. So one thing you should know about any Cirrus, either SR-20 or 22, talk less of a 22T with a turbo. Those are all high performance airplanes. High performance because the size of the engine or the power plant, the power output for those engines are over 200 horsepower. I believe the 22T probably has over 300 horsepower, if I'm not wrong. So that is what that means for a beginner pilot. That's a lot of speed. That's a lot of performance for an airplane. Take a Cessna 150, for example, that a lot of people would train in. You know, you're cruising at maybe between 80 and 100 miles per hour, whereas in the SR-22T, you're twice as fast. You're probably climbing twice as much. So basically, it's a lot of airplanes. So in terms of features now, Cirrus makes really good airplanes, and it's packed. To me, it's even a little bit overpacked with more than enough instruments and technology than you can ask for. So those airplanes are packed with good technology and modern features. And also, one of the things Cirrus is popular for is the BRS parachute. So all of the airplanes come standard with a parachute. So those are some really good safety features that you get automatically. But again, in terms of actually flying the airplane for a beginner pilot, I would not jump into an SR-22 Turbo. I think that's a lot of airplane for someone who's just beginning to fly. I would say start from a smaller airplane and then walk your way up into a Cirrus, but don't start with a Cirrus. That's just my take. Now, if you go to Cirrus, obviously they might tell you something different, but my take is it's better to learn slowly and then graduate into faster, bigger, better performance aircraft. But don't start with one. All right. Alejandro, costs. I'm assuming you mean medical costs. I answered that. It's between 100 and 150 from what I know. Ninja Killer, dude, no, get a Cessna 182. I'm not interested in Cessna, which I will talk about in a little bit, give you guys an update on the aircraft search. Okay, that's just a conversation. I'm looking for the next question. For lumbar disc, how much can I get? Okay, so Manor Ismail, sorry if I butchered your name. You said you take Narco for lumbar disc herniation. Can I get an ultralight pilot license with that? So I'm guessing Narco is a type of medication, and you're wondering if you can get a pilot license with your condition. So I don't know. Your lumbar is in the back, so I'm trying to picture what the particular condition is. But if you can please educate me a little bit. But just at the top of my head, I don't think that any major how should I put this? Excuse me. If you broke your hand, for example, that could be something because you're gonna need your hand to fly. Or if you broke your foot, you're also gonna need your foot to fly. But if you have issues with your back, if it's not extreme, I don't think that it should be a problem. But now, in terms of the medication itself, I don't know the specifics of what type of medication that you need to take or that the FAA approves or don't approve of. But this is what I know. Even alcohol is approved in flying, except you can't drink too much. There are rules pertaining to consuming alcohol. If you drink alcohol today, you have a certain hours that you have to wait and get sober before you get into the cockpit and go flying. So, but my point is, if alcohol is approved by the FAA, then any other type of medication or prescribed drugs, I think should be okay. But again, it depends on the condition. So I don't want to speak on that. But I think that you should be able to get an ultralight pilot license, which has even less stricter rules. Let me see. Man, there's a lot of questions. Does the air medical examiner give you a break on high blood? Okay, Omar 0224, does the medical examiner give you a break on high blood pressure? It depends on what's causing your high blood pressure, because high blood pressure is a symptom of something else. So my thing is, the answer is yes and no, but I think what the examiner will be looking for is what's causing your high blood pressure, not the high blood pressure itself, if that makes any sense. Okay. Chris Lopez, is there a drug test for marijuana on third class medical? I'm holding off until my state medical. So, man, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know what the rules are regarding to pot. I would have to check that one out on myself, but that's a good question. I don't think that pot should be an issue if you smoke marijuana or whatever. I don't think that, but it could be because it is a mental, it is a mental altering drug, right? So because if you're flying, you need all of this to be full working on full engines. So I think there probably might be a rule regarding to smoking weed or whatever have you. Even if you use it for medical purposes, I think that there probably is a rule there, but I don't know for sure. Let me get back to you on that, Chris. Okay. Hey, Brett, if you are ever in South Florida, hit me up. As a matter of fact, Brett, I'm planning a trip right now. I should be in Florida later this year. I don't know if it's going to be probably mid next month or October. But if you can leave me your email, I can definitely get in touch with you. Or if you have a website, leave it on the chat box, and I'll link up with you. And I appreciate the invite. Thank you so much. All right. General says he's going to El Salvador to get his private pilot license. Hey, whatever works best. I don't know the rules out there concerning flying, but if it's better for you, why not? What about having ADD? Look, I think we all have ADD. I've got some level of ADD. At least I think I do. I don't think that should be a problem. But again, any condition that you have, it really depends on how extreme the condition is. If it's like light, you should be fine for the most part. But if your condition is like crazy, then that's probably going to be a challenge. So let's see. Oh, Lindsay says that they just got their medical. I don't know if Lindsay is a man or a woman, so that's why I didn't want to know. I didn't want to say he or she, but Lindsay just got their medical license 2 weeks ago. Total breeze, total 20 minutes, and that's the truth. That's the truth. It doesn't take that long. Mine took just about 20 minutes too. It didn't take me that long, and everything was signed right there, and I was able to get back to my training after I was done. Is there a hearing test? I think so. I don't know if they do a hearing test, but I know they do check your ears. Because remember, communication is part of flying. You're using your eyes a lot. You're also using your ears a lot because you're You're using your mouth also. You're talking to air traffic control, and you also have to be able to hear air traffic control well. So definitely hearing is one of the things that they will check. Linda says no vision test. I don't know why, but they should be checking your eyes. I don't know why they didn't check it. Let's see. Brad Mings wants to know how much is it to acquire a private pilot license? Nationally, it should be between, I would say, $9,000 and $12,000, depending on where you are, depending on the school you choose, or if you just get a private instructor, and depend on the aircraft that you're flying. A lot of it would depend on those variables. For example, if you're flying a cheaper aircraft like a Cessna 150, your training will cost significantly less than, say, you're training in a Cirrus. So a Cessna 150 can cost you maybe $90 to $100 to rent per hour, whereas any Cirrus, as a matter of fact, I did a video recently where I went to check out a flight training school here, and they had a few Cirrus, older ones, like a Generation 2 or Generation 3 Cirrus, and those bad boys were renting for $300 at least, $300. So if you're training in a Cirrus, you're spending $300 just to rent the airplane, and then you pay another $50 to $70 for instructor fees. So compare that to if you were training in a Cessna 150, you're paying a third. You'd be paying a third for your training. So, and my advice is, even if if you can afford to buy a Cirrus or a more expensive airplane, maybe in the future, I would say if you want to save some money on your training, just train on the lowest cost aircraft as possible. I wish I did that, because I train in a DF-40, which is also a little bit more expensive than the traditional Cessna. So the answer is, it should be between 9 and 12. Now, a lot of things can affect your training. You can check out Mojo Group. I've made quite a few videos just talking about that and things that you should look out for. But if you do things right, you dedicate the time and you study and stuff, it shouldn't cost you more than $9,000 to $12,000 to get your private pilot license. Jeff Thomas, are there one-eyed pilots? I honestly don't know. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. Grant Rennie asked, can you wear glasses? Absolutely. I wear glasses. Either I'm wearing my prescription glasses when I fly, or I have my contacts on when I fly. Either of those two, I'm able to see perfectly fine. Let's see. Grant Rainey says $600 in London. Are you saying the medical costs $600 in London? That's way too expensive. Is the usual okay? Let's see. So that's how much it costs. Grant is still asking about hearing tests. I think there is hearing tests here in the US. I could be wrong, but I think there is. Let's see, you need good hearing. I'm just scrolling through all of the questions. Hopefully I get through all of them. I'm watching the time too, guys. Lindsay wants to know, when am I flying the Sling 4 TSI? As soon as I can find time to get my butt to California. So I mentioned this in my last live video that I did. I saw the Sling 4 TSI. It's everything and more. I'm very excited about that aircraft. But sadly, the footage that I took of the airplane, it just didn't come out well. Basically, the sound was really bad. And as you've seen in some of my other videos, I'm very embarrassed by some of the sound noise coming out of it. But I was invited to come check it out. So right now, there's actually just one Sling 4 TSI here in the States, and it's down in Torrance. And they're basically testing it more to be able to like confirm all of the numbers that they've already put out. And from what I've been told, the numbers they put out in terms of performance are even very minimal. They're telling me that that aircraft will outperform those numbers that they put out, but they're being safe about, you know, putting out performance numbers. And so right now it's being tested, and they told me I can come down and check it out anytime. But I promise once I can find time to go back to California for a few, I will check out the Sling 4 TSI. And obviously you guys will be the first to know because I'll post a video about it. So Neil wants to know, what about mental requirements and not job stealing planes lately? So in the beginning of the chat, I did kind of tell that story. I don't think anything will be done in terms of any type of, you know, checking your mental state to be able to fly. Although when you think of current events, you know, it makes me a little nervous, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe the FAA will start adding or testing people now for their mental situation. But I will say, technically, they already are testing for that. I know that if you are, man, it's up here on the FAA website. If I can look it up real quick. I want to read exactly what it's saying, so you guys, so I don't give you the wrong information. So the answer is they are already checking for your mental, how healthy you are mentally, because this is one of the, let's see. And yes, on this page, it does say that they check your air conditions. So hearing is one of the tests that you're going to get. Where is it? Where is it? Shoot. So let's see. Intermediate vision, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it says right here, no diagnosis of psychosis or bipolar disorder or severe personality disorder. I'll read that again. For your mental check, which will also be part of your examination, no diagnosis of psychosis or bipolar disorder or severe personality disorder. So technically they check for your mental state in those specifically, those specific things. If you have a prior diagnosis of bipolar, for example, again, I don't know the specifics, and I do think that every condition will depend on how extreme it is or how much you have it under control. But if you do have any of those conditions, then you know you might not be able to pass your exam to be able to fly. So they do check your mental state for those things. Again, with all of this stuff going, technically, when you think of the story of the guy who stole the airplane, there's nothing the FAA can do about that. That guy was not even a pilot. It was just someone who clearly needed help with their mental situation. So the FAA can't really do anything about that. It's just sometimes crazy people would do crazy things. But the pilot who flew into his own home, that's a different case. But I don't know if the FAA would make any new rules regarding those things. Emmanuel Scott, what about eczema? I think that's what that is. I don't think there's any situations with eczema. I think eczema is a skin condition. Please educate me on what it is so I don't mess up your answer. But I think if that's just a skin condition, I think you should be fine. Except you're using some type of medication that could have not so good side effects on you when you fly. That's the only reason why I would think maybe eczema is banned or whatever. Oh, Lindsay mentioned that you take a piss test, which technically is testing for drugs as well. So, yep, apparently they test you for drugs. Boom, 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 boom. Let's see. I think I've gone through all of the questions. Ninja Killer, are you asking me if I'm getting my CFR? Or you're asking somebody else. If you are asking me, I plan to. I that's the only commercial route that I'm going. If I'm getting a commercial license, it would be to become a flight instructor. And it's not, again, I have my reasons for doing it. I'm obsessed with airplanes so much that, and it serves my mission to get more people in the gate, to get more people into flying. So I'll love to teach people how to fly. So the answer is yes in the future. Brandon Beckham, what is my favorite aircraft? Oh man, if one comes to mind right now, it would be the Sling. The Sling 4. I think you'd have to fly one yourself to see what I mean, because I've flown in different aircraft, and I spend most of my flying in a DA-40. But when I flew the Sling 4, just something about it. So right now, my favorite aircraft would be a Sling. Let's see. Greetings from Mexico. Hey, Juan Jose Lopez. Thank you for tuning in, man. Okay, so is it pronounced Narnia Voyager? Update on the airplane you're considering buying. Okay, I'll stop the pausing the questions here because that's on my agenda anyway. So here's the update. The update is there is no update. I'm kidding. So I'm still looking, guys. Look, this is my iPad over here. 1 hour before I go to bed every day, I'm searching, I'm on Barnstormers, I'm on Controller, I'm on forums, and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking. And I kind of feel like a kid at the candy store just searching and still contemplating on which aircraft to get. And last video I mentioned that I'm looking now at the Piper Tomahawk. And I asked your opinion what you guys think of the aircraft, because it does have some bad rep about it with the wings or whatnot. So, but it is an aircraft that I'm interested in. But right now, the Cherokee is at the top of the list. I'm looking hard at the Cherokee. That said, I've been advised not to get a 140 or a 160. I've been advised if I'm getting a Cherokee that I should look more closely at a 180 horsepower version, partly because I live in a very hot and humid state, especially during the summer, which a lot of the flying would happen. So that's at the top of the list. But even better update, I met with one of you guys this past week. Shout out to Joe. So ever since I made the announcement, I've had a few people reach out to me about possibly going into a partnership because they're trying to get an aircraft too. And, in the beginning, I didn't think much of it, but I'm like, okay, this can be a way to save some money, because I would love to save some money. Right now, as it is, if I purchase the aircraft by myself, I'm looking at between $7,000 to $9,000 a year, or $7,000 to $10,000 a year, depending on how much I'm flying. If I fly, between, I would say 60 to 100 hours, I'm looking at around that 7 to 10,000 a year. That's just owning and flying the airplane. Now, obviously, the more people you bring on board, the lower that cost is. And I did the math. If 3 of us own that one airplane, for example, then my cost goes down to about 4,500, or about a little bit over $5,000 a year if I flew those same hours. So those are the numbers that I'm looking at. But I did meet with one of my viewers named Joe, and he was in the same predicament. And so we talked about his mission and some of the things he would like to do with the airplane or his plans with his license and whatnot. So I'm definitely open to that. If anyone who's watching right now is also interested in going into a partnership, now that I'm actually really thinking more about it, the more people, if I go that route, the more people we can get, into the fold, the better, because it gets cheaper for everybody. So that's the update on the aircraft purchase. But trust me, as soon as I get something, you guys will be the first to know. And like I said, I'm making a trip down to Florida later this year. Part of it also is to check out some airplanes that are, because for some reason, a lot of when I'm searching online, I see a lot of good deals in Florida. But again, the only challenge is it's out of state. So if you're buying, it's not like a car. If you're buying an airplane, you want to get it checked out first. So basically, you have to get an AP mechanic that you trust. Either go fly there and inspect the aircraft for you, or you have to find someone there at the location to do all that job for you. Either way, you want to be careful with how you go about it. So, but that's the update. I'm just gonna read last through if there's any more questions here, and then we're gonna round up. Okay. Hey Grant, hope you have a good night too, man. Thank you so much for stopping by. Looking. All right, okay, stop here. Ron Penley asked, do they give you your medical certificate after the end of the exam? Yes. Yes, you get your paper certificate right then and there, signed by the examiner, and you're good to go. Do they check the inside of your nose? Omar is asking that. I honestly don't remember if they did, but I don't remember, honestly. Let's see. Check sugar, drugs, no sugar. Hey, Michael, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for watching them. All right, I'm going to answer 2 to 3 more here. Do-it-yourself top hacks. Any new electric planes? Right now, not that I know of. The last electric plane we checked out at Oshkosh, which was the oh shoot, I just lost the name for whatever reason. But by Aerospace, the Sunflyer. I honestly believe that that's going to be the first full electric plane that will be manufactured here in the U.S. And the great news is that they're this close to certification. Hopefully, within the next 2 years, that airplane will be out flying in the hands of the customer. Hey, appreciate it. Some people don't like it, but I appreciate you guys for liking it. To a Ninja Killer, do I plan on coming to Jacksonville? Honestly, the wife is planning the trip, so I suck at planning trips. So she's planning my trip for me. I basically this is how it's gonna go. I have a list of about 10 to 15 places and airplanes that I want to visit, and basically I put all the addresses together and just gave it to her, and then she's gonna help me plan it out and let me know which is doable and which is not. But because everything depends on how close in proximity the travel is, because I only have about a week for this trip, and I want to visit as many places as possible. So I'll see if I come down to Jacksonville, but I'll let you know if I do. If I Snapchat, I'm not on Snapchat. Maybe I should create one. I might create one in the future, but if I do, I'll let y'all know. Hey, Craig, appreciate you coming in, man. And yes, I will cover the Sling 4 soon. I have to find time to again to head to California. Narnia wants to know why the Piper Cherokee or the Tomahawk, not the Sling 4. Easy. The Sling 4 costs 10 times more. Right now, my pocket only can afford about 25 grand. When I'm ready to build, and with Sling 4, you're looking at, if I'm building one today, I know that I'll be looking at least around the $200,000 range to build that airplane to what I would want. Okay, and especially with the new Rotax 915 engine, whatever the early Sling 4 cost, you're adding another $20,000 or so to that cost. So that's the reason why it's basically cost. If I had the money right now, I will build either a Sling 4 and RV, but you guys already know I have a preference towards the Sling. All right, so last question I'm going to answer. Ninja, what about Facebook or Instagram? My Facebook is Mojo Grip, and my Instagram is also Mojo Grip. Okay, so if you guys please connect with me on there. Again, I apologize for people who are on Facebook more. I'm not usually on Facebook, but definitely Instagram, I'm on there a lot, and YouTube, obviously, I'm on there a lot. So, but it's all Mojo Grip. Just search Mojo Grip and you should see me. So that will be it for today. Thank you guys so much. And I should wait. Let me thank all of my patrons. Al Jernigan, thank you so much. Craig Lewis, thank you so much. James, Jose Keegan, Kimati, thank you. Matt, Stephen Jones, Tim Jones, Tori Peterson, and Winston. You guys are awesome. You guys rock. You honestly make this, all of this is already fun, but you make it so much more exciting because you're giving me your hard-earned dollars for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I really appreciate it, guys. And for those of you who have not joined my Patreon, check it out. The link is on the Mojo Grip page. Just go to patreon.com/MojoGrip, and it only costs $1. Okay, so if you want to support the channel, please do so. I really, really appreciate it. All right, thank you guys so much. We're going to call it a day because I got to head out now. And I will talk to you guys on my next video. You know, I upload on Thursdays and on Sundays, so watch out for Thursday's video. Okay? Peace, guys. Talk to you soon.